It's finally done. It sucks to say that, but it's over. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Daniel Strunk from QuickTime Reactions, and I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 12 of Andor. Jedha, Kyber, Urso. With the extraction happening on Coruscant, our gang has to evade ISB and be able to make it back to Yavin with Clea in tow and with the information that she possesses. Will they be able to? And will this rebellion have any hope? So, this episode was very powerful because, my mind immediately went to what happens in Rogue One with, a lot of these characters. But just to get it right off the bat, yes, they are able to make it back. Not only Cassian, Melshi, and K2SO, but they are also able to get Clea, which I was not expecting them to do that. That was absolutely amazing to me. Basically, K2SO came in there and like a bulldozer just, wrecked everybody. And they were able to make it out. And I love the fact that the ISB were so concerned about the false narrative that they had Herta place out there about, Clea having a disease that could infect thousands. They were more concerned about that than, the threat that they, were currently facing with just a squadron. I just found that absolutely hysterical. And I also love that when the Y-wing takes off, the ISB transporters, they fly past, and it's like ships passing in the night. But yes, they are able to get Clea back to Yavin, and Cassian meets with Bail and Mon Mothma and Radis and Palmo and all of the leaders of the rebellion. Well, most of them, I should say. And recall the information that Clea was told by Luthen. And Bail's like, well, when was the last time you spoke to Luthen? And he says, a year ago. And Bail's like, a lot can change in a year. Maybe you have to reconcile with the fact that Luthen was the one that was being played and all this. And Cassian swears up and down that the information that he received was indeed very, very real. But they basically ground Cassian, basically tell him, look, we're going to have a full session in tomorrow. You're grounded until then. You can plead your case there, but you're grounded until we can assemble a full council. But Cassian's like, permission to visit the infirmary, and Mon immediately grants him that permission. And so he's able to visit Clea, who's in the infirmary, and, it's not necessarily the hero's welcome that Cassian had promised. Mon ends up sending Vel to kind of act as a spy for her to basically make sure that Cassian was the one that was telling the truth. And then, they give a toast to, everyone that had made sacrifices. Gorman, Aldani, Ferrix, Nemec, Gorn, Cinta, everybody that they had lost along the way. And Vel is not able to get confirmation from Cassian and also Clea, who she bumped into while she, had unhooked all the medical stuff, and she just started wandering into the woods. My assumption was is that she might have gone and but Vel ended up stopping her, and I love during the the scene, the transition to where we see Partagaz in the ISB office. We hear Nemec's manifesto playing, which I thought was an absolutely amazing touch. And Partagaz says, it's a strange thing. This keeps spreading and spreading and spreading, getting louder and louder. And the head above Partagaz says, well, they were wanting me to bring you in, and they sent me here to get you. And Partagaz is like, let me get a moment to recollect my thoughts. And he sits in his chair, pulls out a blaster, and, well, And so we cut back to Yavin. They're getting transpondence from a mole in Saw's camp named Tivik, on Kafrene, and he is only willing to talk to Andor about it. And so Draven goes to Cassian's home and says, look, this is what we got. And you're the only person that he's willing to talk to. And Bale also comes in and says, have you been able to sleep well lately? And Cassian's like, no. And he basically says, look, if I'm wanting to fight the Empire, I'm going to go down swinging. And Cassian just looks at him and says, yeah, you and Luthen would have gotten on well together, better than you would have thought. And Bale basically gives him the permission to go and explore this thread. And I absolutely love the shot of Cassian walking to his ship, passing Melchi, who's training soldiers. We cut to Wilman with his lovely lady. Cut to Mon and Vel sitting and chatting. And then, very interestingly, cut to Dedra, who, I forgot to mention this in my last episode review, episode 11, that she and Krennic had a little session where, Krennic basically tells her that she was a scavenger, and Dedra's like, well, I had to scavenge in order to get the information that I needed to go forward with finding access, and I did. Well, for all that digging, she ended up in Narkina 5. And I wouldn't necessarily say Narkina 5, but a similar prison to Narkina 5. And she's absolutely distraught. And Cassian flies out to Kafrene, where that's where we pick up with him in Rogue One. And meanwhile, we cut back to Minarau, the farming planet, or the wheat planet, I should say, where, we see B2. We haven't seen him since, like, the first arc. And we see a person walking into the field of wheat. And it's Bix with a baby. And I don't know if this is, like, me or anybody else, but, like, I got major parallels with, like, heaven. Like, this is Cassian's heaven that we're looking at. Just him and Bix alone with a kid. They started a family, and that's what he would have wanted, is when it was all done. And he even told Vel this. It's like, once this settles down, maybe I get back with Bix, and that doesn't quite end up happening. I wanted to give special shout outs at the end of the review to the director of all three of these episodes, Alonso Ruiz Palacios. I hope I said his last name correctly. And Tom Bissell for being the director-writer combination for all three of these final episodes. They did an amazing job with everything in these three episodes, making it triumphant, but at the same time, like, very, very worrying about what comes up in the future. I also wanted to give a massive, massive, massive shout out to Diego Luna, Adria Ajorna, Denise Goh, Faye Marseille, Elizabeth Dulau, Stellan Skarsgård, Alan Tudyk, Forrest Whitaker, Ben Mendelsohn, Benjamin Bratt, basically every single person that was in seasons 1 and 2 of this show, because you guys have injected a much needed love into Star Wars. Legitimately. This show has been the brightest of bright beacons, considering how dark the material is on the show. It is a very, very bright beacon for Star Wars at this point right now, because a lot of people have been disconsolate about it ever since Disney kind of took over with the sequel trilogy, and how divided the fans are. But I think everyone can agree that this has been a shining star. So, thank you to everyone in the cast. Thank you to Tony Gilroy for being the mastermind and the brilliant mind behind this two-season show. Thank you to everyone that has stepped in front of and behind that camera to work on this show, because it is an absolute gem, and more people should know about its brilliance. But unfortunately, that is it for Andor. I may end up doing a Rogue One movie review, maybe, just with with all this context of Andor in my head. I might do it, who knows, but I'll make that decision at some point. But in the meantime, guys, be safe out there, and remember, you can always be a spark in a rebellion somewhere. And I will catch you next time.